Round one of the NFL draft is complete. It's in the books. So I have 7 questions here that I'm going to be using to basically react to everything that happened on Thursday night from a dynasty and fantasy football perspective. So let's just get right into it because it's really exciting. And the first question here that I have is, who is the QB1 of this class? We had 3 quarterbacks being taken in the top 5 picks overall. Bryce Young to the Carolina Panthers, CJ Stroud to the Houston Texans, and Anthony Richardson to the Indianapolis Colts. So of those 3 players, which one of them is my QB1 in this class for fantasy football? And while I've gone through all of draft season with Bryce Young as my rookie QB1, I have to say that the landing spot for Anthony Richardson is super enticing. And this is one of the big reasons why I wanted Will Levis to go there to the Indianapolis Colts at 4 overall. Of the rookie quarterbacks that were drafted, Richardson has the best weapons to throw to, the best run game, the best offensive line, and the best coaching staff off the rip for day one. I mean, sure, Carolina and Houston can continue to grow their offenses out to support their rookie quarterbacks. We've seen plenty of teams do that, but from day one, Richardson has a lot in place to start. Plus, he offers the rushing upside that neither Bryce Young nor CJ Stroud are even going to be able to touch, which is extremely important for fantasy football. So while I'm still skeptical of Anthony Richardson, like the player overall, the landing spot and the fantasy upside is just too enticing to not have him as my rookie QB1. So he is my 1.02 right now in Superflex leagues, with Bryce Young right after him as my QB2 and 1.03, and CJ Stroud as my QB3 and 1.04. Obviously after Bijan Robinson, 1.01. So then, speaking of Bijan Robinson, let's just get right into him because he was taken 8th overall by the Atlanta Falcons. And the question that I have here is he still the undisputed 1.01 in every single format? And my answer is absolutely. This was probably the best landing spot for Bijan in the entire NFL in terms of just raw potential volume. He can and most likely will play a Derrick Henry role in this Arthur Smith offense. Honestly, the best argument in favor of Bijan producing in Atlanta is Tyler Algier, who just rushed for over 1,000 yards in this offense last year, and from week 9 on was on a 17-game pace of over 1,300 yards on 238 carries. The main reasons why Algier wasn't great for fantasy was because he only scored 4 times and only caught 16 passes. But Bijan Robinson, as we know, is just immensely better than Tyler Algier. So he will be able to score more often just on his sheer talent alone sometimes, not even mentioning the fact that the Atlanta Falcons just should be a better offense in general than what they were last year with Desmond Ridder, Drake London in year 2, and then Kyle Pitts coming back from injury. So there should be more scoring opportunities for Bijan Robinson as well. And then he should be a bigger receiving threat in this offense than what Tyler Algier is. He's just a better receiver than Algier and has all of that skill set as well. So he should be able to have more receptions, which is going to increase and supplement his fantasy floor and his fantasy ceiling. I honestly think that he could have like an Ezekiel Elliott level rookie season with just the immense rushing volume that he's going to get in this offense, and hopefully enough receptions to supplement that floor and ceiling like I just mentioned. So Ezekiel Elliott had over 1,600 yards and 15 touchdowns on the ground as a rookie. And I think that Bijan Robinson, who is an Ezekiel Elliott level prospect at the running back position, with that kind of volume, could basically do almost the exact same thing and be absolutely elite for fantasy football from day one. Also, just a side note here, this is yet another example of a productive day 3 running back just getting replaced in the NFL draft.
And another one gone, and another one gone, another one bites the dust.
It happens, and it's going to continue to happen pretty much every single year. So if you still have Dameon Pierce or Isaiah Pacheco, I would be trying so hard to move those guys before Friday night because they could be next. The third question that we have here is, which first-round pick was the worst for fantasy football? And I think everybody wants to label this as Jahmyr Gibbs. 1, because it was a big reach for the Lions to take him at 12 overall, but then 2, he landed on a team that already has a Gibbs type of running back in DeAndre Swift. Plus, they just signed David Montgomery to a 3-year, $18 million deal in free agency this offseason. However, I think for fantasy, this situation will wind up clearing itself when DeAndre Swift is dealt either this weekend or potentially soon after. So that should leave Gibbs to play the DeAndre Swift role while David Montgomery plays the Jamal Williams role, which I think is going to be good for fantasy. Maybe not ideal necessarily, but it should still be good for fantasy football. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs is just talented enough that he's going to be great in this Lions offense with the receiving volume that he should get on top of any rushing volume that he'll also get as well. So instead, my pick here is Zay Flowers, just from a fantasy football perspective. I think Flowers was an excellent NFL move for Baltimore to give that newly signed Lamar Jackson yet another weapon in the passing game. However, I just don't know if Flowers can be anything more than like a weekly fantasy wide receiver 3 in this offense, competing for targets with Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., and Mark Andrews. I do believe that all of these moves for Baltimore means that they do want to throw more, but I think we'll just need to be patient with Zay Flowers from a dynasty and fantasy football's perspective as this offense just kind of figures out what it is under Todd Monken. Lamar Jackson comes back from the injuries and missing time, and just overall, I don't know if Zay Flowers is going to be fantastic in year one as a rookie. The next question we have here is which rookie has seen the biggest increase in their fantasy value after the first round? And I think that this has to be Quentin Johnston, not only for the landing spot, but just for the solidification that he was and is a first round talent at wide receiver. His dynasty stock had been falling recently because of rumors and reports that his NFL draft stock was falling, potentially out of round 1 into round 2. So now that we know that that's not true, that is a big win for Quentin Johnston. But then now you factor in the fact that he landed on the LA Chargers, pairing him with Justin Herbert on an offense where both of the main receivers have not been the most reliable health-wise over the past couple of years. Johnston can now come in. He can work the outside with Mike Williams while Keenan Allen is in the slot, which already just from that, spread in offense, that role is going to be good for fantasy football for Quentin Johnston. But if/when there are games where either or both Williams and Allen are out with injuries, Johnston can come in and just play that wide receiver 1 role for Justin Herbert like we saw Josh Palmer have to do and be productive at times during the season last year. So overall, I think that Johnston's dynasty value has just certainly risen because of the landing spot, because of the fact that he was a first round pick, just in terms of confidence and just potential overall success in the NFL for fantasy. Our fifth question here, is there anyone that you thought was going to be drafted in the first round that ended up not being? This is Will Levis. It has to be Will Levis. From what was expected to be a top 5 pick, like he was just auto-placed to the Indianapolis Colts at 4. There were even all the recent reports that he was going to the Texans at 2 overall. He now falls out of day 1 into day 2, and that cartoon falling sound effect that you hear in the background, yeah, that's Levis's dynasty value just plummeting in rookie drafts. He is no longer a first-round pick in Superflex rookie drafts, and you can maybe even argue that he doesn't belong in the second round either, depending on how far he falls on day 2. I do still believe that we see Levis start in the NFL at some point by whatever team ends up drafting him on Friday night, but it may not be more than like a backup role or our team is so bad, so let's just throw the young guy out there, let's see what we have in him role, a la like what we saw Sam Ehlinger play for the Colts last year, or, at best maybe like a Gardner Minshew, neither of which sound good with a top 18 pick in your rookie draft. So Will Levis is now at best like a mid to late second round pick in Superflex leagues, and I honestly wouldn't blame you guys if you just passed on him in the second round and waited to see if you can get him maybe even in the third round of your rookie drafts. Our next question here is which veteran player saw the biggest increase in fantasy value after the first round? And I think for this one, I just want to throw out all of the quarterbacks who got a new wide receiver in the first round. Sure, Justin Herbert probably isn't going to gain any value. He's a consensus top 5 quarterback in Dynasty. And Kirk Cousins is just going to remain that perennially undervalued QB2, even with the addition of Jordan Addison. But Lamar Jackson should have gained value today, both from his massive new contract, but then also by having a new weapon in Zay Flowers, which is going to be good for Lamar Jackson for fantasy football. But then you have Geno Smith, who definitely gained value today from both a new weapon standpoint, but also a job security standpoint. Even with his new contract, it was possible that Seattle could have hedged on that bet and taken a quarterback with one of their 2 picks in round 1, but they didn't do that. And instead, they took the rookie wide receiver 1 in this class to give Geno arguably the best wide receiver room in the entire NFL. So I think Geno Smith has entered a tier of quarterbacks that can be consistently relied upon for QB2 production with QB1 spike weeks because of the talent that he has to throw to now. So he definitely gained the most dynasty value after round 1 for me, and he should be a massive buy for all of you out there. If you are competing, you need that extra quarterback. Go see if you can get Geno Smith, even if you're paying a little bit more than what you would have paid just earlier on Thursday night or earlier this week. And then our final question here, who am I most looking forward to being drafted on Friday on day 2? And for me, it's not so much like one specific player, but just the collection of running backs that we have in this class are all super interesting to see when and where they go on Friday night, or if any of them fall to day 3 on Saturday. You can argue that there is a tier of like 9 running backs. They're all very similar, all could go on day 2. And I've been waiting to let the NFL tell me how I should be ranking all of these guys for rookie drafts. I mean, we're talking about Zach Charbonnet, Devon Achane, Kendre Miller, Tyjae Spears, Tank Bigsby, Zach Evans, Roshan Johnson. Like, all of these guys are just all very similar to me, and I want the NFL to tell me basically how I should be ranking them by their choices and which team and when they actually go to on day 2. Plus, there's the other side of this coin where I just really want to know which veteran running backs are going to get pushed out by an incoming rookie running back, and then which veteran running backs actually end up surviving, because we could have some guys like Zach Charbonnet just straight up take somebody's job. If he goes to the Bears, he pushes out Khalil Herbert. The Chiefs, he pushes out Isaiah Pacheco. That could realistically happen. Do the Bengals or the Vikings end up making a decision on Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cook, in which case then we have a pretty prime destination for a running back that, if a running back does go there, could be pushed dramatically up rookie draft boards as well. So I'm very interested just from that side of it too, from a dynasty and fantasy perspective. When and where do these running backs go on day 2, and which one of them ends up falling to day 3 on Saturday? So those are my reactions to the first round of the NFL draft this year. And if you guys are interested in hearing about 3 players that haven't been drafted yet that I think could be major sleepers for you in your rookie drafts this year, then I highly recommend checking out this video right up here.